Well, the relationship between climate change and violent conflict is complex, and in the case of Somalia, we do see insecurity created by the armed group Al-Shabaab and battles between Al-Shabaab and security forces. But we also see clan-related conflicts too over resources. And definitely the conflict is contributing to the huge numbers of displaced people that we're seeing, about 1 million at the moment in Somalia.
So we're on the outskirts of Dolo in the ghetto region of Somalia at a camp called Kansale. And essentially what we're seeing here is the River Dawa, which is a tributary of the Juba River. And right now, the water levels are actually quite decent because of the rain coming from the Ethiopian highlands. But we're told back in December, all the way up until the middle of the year, that this was completely dry, and there's concerns that could happen again. Now, in the current context, we have a devastating drought which affects everyone across Somalia, whether it's Al-Shabaab or whether it's the government. The question is, how will the group respond to this? On a case-by-case basis, we see some instances where there have been agreements and some aids and some activities have been able to reach into their areas, but we haven't seen anything wider.
Well, in the context of Somalia and the looming famine, it's quite hard to talk about long-term solutions and resilience building, but I think it really is important. And one of the biggest items on the agenda at COP27 is climate adaptation. And I think Somalia is beginning to look at building the mechanisms necessary to attract more climate adaptation financing for the country, to be able to finance these kinds of projects that are important for building resilience, such as rehabilitation of canals, water points, and also building more dams in the country.
The new government's still very much in its infancy, but one of the first moves they made was to appoint a special envoy to cover the drought and basically raise awareness around the situation. And he's traveled around and raised a lot of funding for that. At the same time, they've reshuffled some of their administrative dynamics, which relate to drought management and the response. But it is clear that the new government is taking this quite seriously. We see a number of high-level meetings. We see a number of engagements with international partners. But we have to understand the wider context, which is this is a government that's beset by many challenges. The drought is a pressing one right now, but it also is security and many of the other state-building tasks they have to work on. So their work is very much cut out for them.
I think one of the most important things to do here is to invest and empower local civil society, so they can then, cascade those kinds of ideas that are made, elsewhere in Nairobi or in Mogadishu down to the field. And we saw a very interesting project here in Dolo, which has been set up by WFP and World Vision, where women have been given land to farm, and they're planting crops not just for themselves, but also for fodder for animals, which they're then selling and able to use that money to buy more food for themselves.
haddana bish hadii la gaaro waxayna noogu shubayo had 3 bilood bas aan naga maqan tahay kasto bariis aan waa noolaane alxamdulillah alshukrillah.
That's an interesting potential local solution that we're seeing, but unfortunately in more insecure parts of the region that's just not possible at the moment.
We still think that there's an opportunity here for some sort of humanitarian dialogue, especially given that the situation is so pressing and cross-cutting, and that at the end of the day we're talking about saving thousands of lives here as a result.